June 12, 1941. Bletchley Park, England. British cryptanalysts decode German Enigma message containing operational directive for Luftwaffe units to transfer from Western Europe to airfields along Soviet border. The message reveals troop concentrations, logistics preparations, and attack timings for Operation codenamed Barbarossa, Germany's invasion of Soviet Union planned for June 22. British intelligence immediately forwards decoded intelligence to Prime Minister Winston Churchill. Churchill warns Soviet leader Joseph Stalin through diplomatic channels. Stalin dismisses the warning as British attempt to manipulate Germany and Soviet Union into conflict. He refuses to believe Hitler will break the Nazi-Soviet non-aggression pact signed August 1939. 10 days later. 3.8 million. German troops, 3,350 tanks, and 2,770 aircraft launch largest military invasion in history across 1,800-kilometer front from Baltic to Black Sea. Soviet forces are completely unprepared. In first 48 hours, Luftwaffe destroys 2,000 Soviet aircraft, most on the ground. Within 3 weeks, German forces advance 600 kilometers, encircle entire Soviet armies, and capture 600,000 prisoners. The decoded message that revealed Hitler's invasion plan represents most significant intelligence failure in military history, not because intelligence was unavailable, but because political leadership refused to act on it. British codebreakers at Bletchley Park decrypt dozens of German messages between March-June 1941, detailing Operation Barbarossa preparations, unit movements from France to Poland, railway schedules for transporting tanks eastward, ammunition stockpiling along Soviet frontier, Luftwaffe reconnaissance flights over Soviet positions. Every decoded message confirms German invasion imminent. British intelligence shares information with Soviet Union through multiple channels including diplomatic warnings, intelligence briefings, and even anonymous tips. Stalin ignores all warnings. He believes Hitler remains focused on Britain, that German troop movements are defensive preparations against potential Soviet attack, that Churchill deliberately provides false intelligence to provoke German-Soviet war. This catastrophic misjudgment costs Soviet Union 5 million casualties in first 6 months of war. The intelligence was perfect. The response was disastrous. January-May 1941. British Government Code and Cipher School at Bletchley Park. 80 kilometers northwest of London, operates most successful code-breaking operation in military history. The facility employs 10,000 cryptanalysts, linguists, and support staff working to decrypt German Enigma machine communications. By early 1941, Bletchley Park regularly decrypts German military, naval, and air force messages, intelligence codenamed Ultra. The breakthrough enables British commanders to anticipate German operations, track troop movements, and intercept supply convoys. Ultra intelligence proves decisive in Battle of Britain, Mediterranean naval operations, and North Africa campaign. The code-breaking success remains absolutely secret. Even most Allied commanders don't know source of intelligence they receive. Prime Minister Winston Churchill, 66 years old, personally reviews Ultra decrypts daily. He understands intelligence value and guards secrecy obsessively. March 1941. British cryptanalysts detect dramatic shift in German communications patterns. Enigma traffic from Wehrmacht units in Western Europe, divisions that fought in France. 1940. Suddenly references Eastern deployments. Messages discuss rail transport schedules from Germany to Poland. Luftwaffe communications mention airfield construction in occupied Poland near Soviet border. German supply units requisition winter clothing and cold weather equipment despite approaching summer. The intelligence picture becomes unmistakable. Germany prepares major military operation against Soviet Union. British intelligence analysts compile reports documenting German buildup. By April, ultra-decrypts reveal specific unit designations, division locations, and operational timelines. The intelligence is comprehensive and accurate. Churchill personally briefs his cabinet. Germany will invade Soviet Union within 3 months. The strategic implications are enormous. If Germany attacks Soviet Union, Britain gains powerful ally against Nazi Germany. But what the British don't know yet makes this intelligence revelation even more critical. Hitler formally issues Directive 21 for Operation Barbarossa December 18, 1940, 6 months before invasion. The directive orders Wehrmacht to prepare invasion plan destroying Soviet military power through rapid offensive operations. German military planners spent 6 months organizing largest invasion in history, 152 divisions totaling 3.8 million troops, 3,350 tanks organized in 4 panzer groups, 7,200 artillery pieces, 2,770 aircraft from Luftwaffe, and 600,000 vehicles including trucks and motorcycles. 3 army groups will attack simultaneously: Army Group North toward Leningrad, Army Group Center toward Moscow, Army Group South toward Ukraine. The objective: destroy Soviet military forces in Western Soviet Union within 8 weeks, capture Moscow by September, secure territory to Archangelsk-Astrakhan line. Hitler believes Soviet Union will collapse rapidly. Military leadership is incompetent following Stalin's purges, Soviet equipment is obsolete, communist ideology creates weak morale. Churchill faces critical decision: how to warn Stalin without compromising ultra-secrecy. If Churchill reveals exact decoded message details, Germans might realize Enigma is compromised and change encryption procedures, eliminating British intelligence advantage. But if Churchill provides vague warning, Stalin might dismiss intelligence as speculation. Churchill chooses middle approach. On April 3, 1941, he sends personal message to Stalin through British Ambassador Sir Stafford Cripps warning, "I have sure information from trusted agent that when Germans thought they had got Yugoslavia in net, they decided to attack Soviet Union." Additional warnings follow through May and June from British intelligence officers meeting Soviet representatives. Every warning emphasizes invasion is imminent. German forces concentrate along frontier. Attack planned for late June. Stalin's response to every warning: silence and skepticism. April-June 1941. The decoded German messages at Bletchley Park become increasingly specific and alarming. April 25. Enigma decrypt reveals German 4th Air Fleet transferring from France to airfields in occupied Poland. May 7. Wehrmacht message discusses ammunition distribution to units deployed along Soviet frontier, quantities sufficient for major offensive operations. May 14. Luftwaffe reconnaissance aircraft photograph Soviet airfields, railways, and defensive positions, standard preparation for air superiority campaign. May 20. German Railway Directorate coordinates special transport trains moving 20 panzer divisions from Germany to assembly areas in Poland. Each decoded message adds detail to intelligence mosaic. British analysts produce comprehensive assessment June 10. German invasion of Soviet Union will commence 3rd week of June between 20th to 23rd. The intelligence prediction is remarkably accurate. Actual invasion date is June 22nd. Soviet intelligence services independently detect German preparations, but reach opposite conclusions. Soviet military intelligence, GRU, reports German troop concentrations along frontier March-June 1941. Soviet spy Richard Sorge in Tokyo warns from Japanese sources that Germany will attack June 22 with 150 divisions. Soviet border guards observe German reconnaissance patrols, forward deployments, and bridging equipment positioned near rivers. But Soviet political leadership, dominated by Stalin, interprets evidence differently. Stalin believes German buildup is defensive. Hitler fears Soviet attack and positions troops to deter aggression. Stalin considers Western intelligence warnings as provocation. Britain wants Germany and Soviet Union to destroy each other while Britain survives. Stalin's personal conviction overrides objective intelligence assessment. On June 14, 8 days before invasion, Stalin orders TASS news agency to publish statement declaring rumors of German-Soviet tension are clumsily cooked propaganda. The statement reassures Soviet public that relations with Germany remain friendly. At this exact moment, 1,500 kilometers east along Soviet frontier, German Army Group Center completes final preparations for invasion.
Generalfeldmarschall Fedor von Bock,
60 years old, commands Army Group Center. 1.4 million troops, 2,000 tanks, 900 aircraft. Von Bock, experienced field commander who led successful campaigns in Poland, 1939, and France, 1940, believes Soviet military is weak and demoralized. He anticipates rapid advance to Smolensk, 600 kilometers inside Soviet territory, within 3 weeks. His subordinate panzer commanders, Generaloberst Heinz Guderian commanding 2nd Panzer Group and Generaloberst Hermann Hoth commanding 3rd Panzer Group, share optimism. German intelligence estimates Soviet forces along frontier at 150 divisions with obsolete equipment and incompetent leadership. Reality: Soviet forces number 170 divisions, many with modern T-34 and KV-1 tanks superior to German panzers, but dispersed along frontier without prepared defensive positions or coordinated command structure. Churchill makes final attempt to warn Stalin June 15. He sends urgent message through British ambassador summarizing intelligence: German divisions concentrate along your frontier. Invasion imminent within 1 week. Luftwaffe prepares airfield attacks. Panzer spearheads will strike your forward positions. Stalin receives message June 16. He orders no response. Soviet military commanders request authorization to implement defensive measures, move ammunition forward, camouflage airfields, prepare border fortifications. Stalin refuses. He fears defensive preparations might provoke German attack, believes Hitler will demand territorial concessions rather than invade, think summer 1941 is too soon for German attack. This calculated risk, ignoring intelligence warnings, refusing defensive preparations, maintaining normal peacetime posture, proves catastrophically wrong. Soviet forward airfields remain fully exposed with aircraft parked in neat rows. Soviet tank units lack ammunition and fuel. Soviet rifle divisions spread thinly along frontier without prepared fallback positions. What happens in the next 7 days demonstrates perfect intelligence proving useless without leadership willing to act. June 16 to 21st, German units move to final assault positions at night. Artillery pieces deploy behind camouflage. Assault troops occupy forward trenches. Luftwaffe bombers arm with bombs and fuel for dawn strikes. German commanders brief troops. Invasion begins. 0315 hours. June 22nd. Soviet border guards report unusual German activity, increased radio traffic, engine noises, troop movements. Soviet intelligence officers compile reports to Moscow warning attack appears imminent possibly June 22nd. Stalin receives multiple warnings June 21st evening. He orders no alert, no defensive measures, no mobilization. At 2,200 hours. June 21st, Stalin meets German Ambassador Friedrich von Schulenburg who delivers no ultimatum or demands, unusual if Germany plans diplomatic pressure. Stalin interprets this as confirmation no attack is imminent. He goes to sleep. At his dacha outside Moscow, Stalin believes he has successfully maintained peace with Germany through careful diplomacy and avoiding provocation. June 22, 1941. 0315 hours. 3 German army groups, 153 divisions totaling 3.8 million troops, attack simultaneously across 1,800-kilometer front from Baltic Sea to Black Sea. The attack achieves complete tactical and operational surprise despite months of intelligence warnings. Soviet forces are unprepared at every level. Forward airfields have aircraft parked without dispersal. Ammunition depots are located near frontier vulnerable to immediate capture. Communication networks are peacetime configuration unable to coordinate rapid response. Unit commanders lack authorization to respond with force. German preliminary artillery barrage strikes Soviet positions for 30 minutes. Then panzer spearheads cross frontier at dozens of points. Luftwaffe launches 2,770 aircraft against Soviet airfields in coordinated strikes, destroying aircraft before they can take off. By 0600 hours. Within 3 hours of invasion start, Luftwaffe destroys 1,200 Soviet aircraft on ground. German panzer columns advance 50-80 kilometers. First day against scattered resistance. Soviet frontier defenses collapse in chaos. June 22, 1941. 0700 hours. Moscow. Stalin receives telephone call from Soviet Defense Commissar Marshal Semyon Timoshenko. Germans are bombing our cities. The invasion has begun. Stalin is initially silent, convinced report must be mistake or provocation. He orders verification. Reports flow into Moscow confirming massive German offensive across entire western frontier. Stalin finally accepts reality. Hitler has invaded despite Nazi-Soviet pact, despite Stalin's conviction attack wouldn't occur, despite months of intelligence warning Stalin dismissed. Stalin's immediate response reveals psychological shock. He issues no orders, makes no speeches, withdraws to his dacha. For next 11 days, Stalin remains largely absent from leadership as Soviet military struggles to organize coherent defense. The intelligence warnings Stalin ignored for 3 months prove accurate in every detail. Invasion timing, force strength, operational objectives. The first 48 hours of Operation Barbarossa demonstrate catastrophic consequences of ignoring intelligence warnings. By June 23 evening, 36 hours after invasion, German forces achieved devastating tactical victories across entire front. Army Group North advances 100 kilometers toward Leningrad, capturing key bridges over Dvina River. Army Group Center's panzer spearheads penetrate 150 kilometers, encircling Soviet forces near Bialystok. Army Group South breaks through Soviet defenses in Ukraine, threatening Kiev. Luftwaffe establishes air superiority, destroying 2,000 Soviet aircraft in 2 days, mostly on ground before crews can respond. Soviet casualties: 150,000 killed, wounded, or captured in 48 hours. German casualties: 8,000. The exchange ratio reflects complete German operational superiority enabled by surprise attacks Soviet leadership refused to anticipate. 3 factors now converge to create Soviet military catastrophe in first weeks. Strategic surprise from ignored intelligence leaves Soviet forces unprepared. Command paralysis from Stalin's psychological shock delays coordinated response. And tactical superiority from German mobile warfare doctrine overwhelms Soviet static defenses. First factor: unpreparedness. Soviet aircraft destroyed on ground represent 25% of Western military district air strength eliminated before conducting single combat mission. Soviet tank units lack fuel and ammunition because Stalin refused pre-invasion supply distribution fearing provocation. Soviet rifle divisions spread across 1,800-kilometer frontier cannot concentrate against German spearheads because no defensive plan exists. Second factor, command paralysis. Stalin issues first public statement only July 3. 11 days after invasion. Soviet military commanders receive contradictory orders: defend everywhere, counterattack immediately, withdraw to prepared positions that don't exist. Communication networks collapse under German jamming and physical destruction. And then the operational disaster escalates into strategic catastrophe. June 23 to July 10, German panzer groups execute double envelopment at Minsk encircling Soviet Western Front, 3 armies totaling 400,000 troops. Soviet commanders attempt breakout, but lack coordination and supplies. By July 10, Germans capture 300,000 prisoners, 2,500 tanks, 1,400 artillery pieces. The Minsk pocket represents largest encirclement in military history to that point. But German success creates overconfidence. Hitler and Wehrmacht commanders believe Soviet Union will collapse within 8 weeks as planned. They underestimate Soviet reserves, mobilization capacity, and will to resist. Intelligence warning Stalin ignored in June prove accurate. Intelligence estimates Hitler believes in July prove catastrophically wrong. Soviet Union possesses 300 reserve divisions Wehrmacht intelligence never detected. July-August 1941. German armies continue advance deep into Soviet territory. Army Group Center reaches Smolensk. 400 kilometers inside Soviet Union by July 16. Army Group North approaches Leningrad by August. Army Group South captures Kiev September 19 along with 600,000 Soviet prisoners. But German operational tempo slows. Supply lines extend 800 kilometers from German border to front lines. Soviet resistance stiffens as reserves arrive. Casualties mount. By August, German forces suffer 400,000 casualties, representing 10% of invasion force. The rapid victory Hitler expected becomes prolonged campaign. Soviet industrial base evacuates eastward beyond Ural Mountains. 1,500 factories disassembled and relocated where German forces cannot reach. Soviet military mobilizes 5 million additional troops by September. The strategic calculation Hitler made, Soviet Union will collapse rapidly, proves fundamentally wrong. The intelligence warning Stalin ignored, invasion is imminent, proves perfectly accurate. The ultimate irony, both sides' intelligence assessments were simultaneously correct and disastrously acted upon. The human cost of Stalin's ignored intelligence warnings manifests in unprecedented military casualties. June-December 1941. Soviet military losses total 5 million. Killed, wounded, or captured in 6 months. Entire armies cease to exist. The Western Front defending Moscow route loses 90% of its strength. The Southwestern Front in Ukraine is destroyed at Kiev. Soviet tank strength drops from 20,000 tanks June the 22nd to 2,000 operational tanks by December. Luftwaffe achieves air superiority Soviet Air Force cannot contest. German forces advance to Moscow suburbs by November, visible from Kremlin towers. Yet Soviet Union survives. Winter arrives November 1941. German forces lack winter equipment. Hitler believed war would end before winter. Soviet reserves counterattack December 5 using Siberian divisions equipped for winter warfare. Germans retreat from Moscow. First major German defeat of war. The invasion Hitler expected to win in 8 weeks becomes 4-year struggle costing Germany 4 million casualties and ultimate defeat. The decoded message British intelligence provided Stalin in April would have enabled defensive preparations, reducing catastrophic June losses. But Stalin's refusal to believe intelligence made accurate forewarning irrelevant. The immediate strategic consequence of Stalin's intelligence failure extends across entire Eastern Front. By December 1941, Soviet Union suffers 5 million military casualties, loses territory containing 40% of population, surrenders industrial regions producing 60% of coal and steel. But Soviet Union survives initial onslaught and mobilizes for total war. The ignored intelligence warnings in June haunt Stalin throughout war. Post-war Soviet investigations reveal Stalin received 84 separate intelligence warnings between January-June 1941. From British sources, Soviet spies, border reconnaissance, and diplomatic channels. Every warning indicated German invasion imminent. June 1941. Stalin dismissed all warnings. British historian John Keegan writes, Stalin's refusal to credit intelligence warnings of German invasion represents one of history's most catastrophic intelligence failures, not from lack of information, but from political leaders' dogmatic conviction that his judgment superseded factual evidence. If Stalin had acted on intelligence warnings Churchill provided, military historians calculate alternative scenarios. Scenario 1. Stalin authorizes defensive preparations. May 1941. Soviet forces camouflage forward airfields, distribute ammunition, prepare fallback positions. Result: Luftwaffe achieves reduced surprise, destroying perhaps 500 aircraft instead of 2,000. Soviet ground forces conduct organized withdrawal rather than chaotic retreat. Casualties reduced potentially 40% in first month. Scenario 2. Stalin orders preemptive mobilization. June 15. Soviet reserves move to frontier, tank units fully supplied, command structure on war footing. Result: German invasion still succeeds, but Soviet resistance significantly more effective. Encirclements at Minsk and Kiev avoided or reduced. German advance possibly stopped. 200 kilometers short of Moscow. Scenario 3. Historical reality where Stalin refuses all warnings. Soviet military unprepared, suffers catastrophic losses, barely survives. 1941. Historians generally conclude, defensive preparations based on British intelligence wouldn't prevent German invasion, but would significantly reduce Soviet losses and possibly shorten war by the 6th of December months. The decoded messages that revealed Hitler's invasion plan represent both British intelligence triumph and Soviet intelligence failure. British codebreakers at Bletchley Park successfully decrypted German operational plans months before execution. Intelligence coup enabling strategic warning to potential ally. But intelligence value depends on leadership willing to act on information provided. Churchill provided accurate, timely, detailed warnings. Stalin rejected them all. Soviet military intelligence officer General Ivan Golikov later writes, "We had all necessary intelligence about German invasion preparations." The failure was not intelligence collection, but political leadership unwilling to accept unwelcome facts contradicting ideological assumptions. The lesson resonates through intelligence history. Perfect intelligence proves worthless when political leaders refuse to believe it contradicts their preconceptions. Remember June 12, 1941, when British cryptanalysts decoded German Enigma message revealing Operation Barbarossa invasion plans. Remember Churchill personally warned Stalin through diplomatic channels that Germany would attack Soviet Union late June. Remember Stalin dismissed all warnings as British provocation, refused defensive preparations, maintained normal peacetime posture along Soviet frontier. Remember June 22, 1941, when 3.8 million German troops invaded across 1,800-kilometer front, achieving complete surprise despite months of intelligence warnings. Remember, Luftwaffe destroyed 2,000 Soviet aircraft in 48 hours, mostly on ground before takeoff. Remember, Soviet casualties reached 5 million in 6 months, catastrophic losses resulting partly from unpreparedness. Remember, the decoded message was accurate, the warning was timely, the intelligence was comprehensive. But political leadership refused to act. This is the decoded message that revealed Hitler's plan to invade Russia. Intelligence triumph rendered useless by leader who wouldn't believe facts contradicting his assumptions. The statistics quantify one of history's most consequential intelligence failures. Intelligence warnings provided to Stalin, 84 separate reports between January-June 1941. From British intelligence, Soviet spies including Richard Sorge, GRU military intelligence, and border reconnaissance. All warned German invasion imminent. June 1941. Stalin's response: dismissed all warnings, refused offensive preparations, ordered no mobilization. Operation Barbarossa forces: 3.8 million. German troops, 3,350 tanks, 2,770 aircraft, 7,200 artillery pieces attacking across 1,800-kilometer front. Soviet casualties June-December 1941. 5 million. Killed, wounded, captured. Worst military losses in 6 months in military history. Luftwaffe destroyed 2,000 Soviet aircraft in 48 hours. Territory lost: 40% of Soviet population, 60% of industrial capacity. American historian David Glantz writes, Stalin's refusal to act on intelligence warnings directly caused catastrophic Soviet losses in 1941. Had Stalin authorized basic defensive preparations, Soviet military could have significantly reduced casualties and possibly prevented German advance to Moscow. British intelligence historian Ralph Bennett states, British ultra-intelligence on Barbarossa was comprehensive and accurate. Churchill fulfilled obligation to warn ally. Stalin's rejection of intelligence represents political failure, not intelligence failure. Today, intelligence agencies worldwide study Barbarossa intelligence warnings as case study in intelligence politicization, when political leaders reject intelligence contradicting predetermined beliefs. At CIA training facility, analysts learn case where Stalin's ideological conviction, Hitler wouldn't break Nazi-Soviet pact, overrode objective evidence from multiple independent sources. At Britain's Joint Intelligence Committee, Barbarossa demonstrates why intelligence must reach decision-makers, but cannot force action. Ultimate responsibility lies with political leadership. Modern intelligence doctrine emphasizes, intelligence analysts must present facts regardless of policy implications. Political leaders must separate desired outcomes from objective assessments. And ignoring intelligence warnings doesn't eliminate threats. The decoded message of June 1941 contained accurate information that could have saved millions of lives, but couldn't overcome one man's refusal to believe intelligence contradicting his worldview. The lesson endures. Perfect intelligence fails when leaders prefer comfortable assumptions to uncomfortable facts.